In December 1804, Napoleon Bonaparte crowned himself Emperor of France. His meteoric rise from the son of Corsican nobility to Emperor of France in just over a decade was unlike anything Europe had seen. Revolution and war cleared his way to the throne. And war would define his 10-year reign of conflict that left millions dead and plunged the continent into chaos. Eight months after his coronation, France and its Spanish ally were in war with Great Britain. Napoleon had gathered an emissive army of 180,000 men along the Channel coast, but with the British Royal Navy controlling the seas, an invasion was impossible. While Britain couldn't challenge France on land, it turned to diplomacy, uniting European powers against Napoleon through coalitions funded by British wealth. Austria, feeling its influence in Germany and Italy had been eroded by French victories, was especially resentful. When Napoleon crowned himself King of Italy in Milan in May 1804, Austria joined Russia, Sweden, Naples, and Britain in forming the Third Coalition, devising plans for a series of coordinated offensives against France. The main attack was to come from a combined Austro-Russian army, which would advance across the Rhine into France. However, Napoleon learned of the Allies' plans and moved swiftly. Determined to strike first, he ordered his army, now called La Grande Army, to march toward the River Rhine, targeting the Austrian army under General Mack, who had advanced prematurely into Bavaria, leaving his forces isolated from the rest of the Allies. Napoleon's cavalry commander, Marshal Murat, made feint attacks through the Black Forest, while the main army moved rapidly to encircle Mack's forces from the north. At this time, Napoleon's Grande Army was at its peak, well-trained, highly motivated, and newly organized into the corps system. Each corps, led by a marshal, was essentially a mini-army of 15,000 to 30,000 men, complete with infantry, cavalry, artillery, and support units like engineers. This system allowed each corps to operate independently for a time, advancing along multiple roads and living off the land, which sped up movement and confused the enemy. By dispersing his forces, Napoleon concealed his true objective, and when the time came, the army could concentrate for battle quickly. This tactic, combined with their speed, often caught enemies off guard. General Mack didn't realize the threat he faced until it was too late. Napoleon's corps crossed the Danube behind him, surrounding his army. Despite several uncoordinated counterattacks, Mack's forces were trapped. He hoped the Russian army under General Kutuzov would arrive in time to save him, but they were too far away. On October 19th, just 6 weeks into the war, Mack surrendered at Ulm, with nearly 60,000 Austrian soldiers falling into French hands. Kutuzov, an experienced and cautious commander, knew he couldn't face Napoleon alone after Mack's surrender. His army, exhausted from its long march from Russia, retreated immediately. Though the Russians fought several fierce rearguard actions, they couldn't prevent Napoleon from capturing Vienna on November 12th. Kutuzov withdrew to Olmütz, where he was joined by reinforcements from both Emperor Alexander of Russia and Emperor Francis of Austria. Napoleon, frustrated that Kutuzov had slipped away, needed a decisive victory before winter set in, as his army was far from home and growing weary. Luckily for him, the young Russian emperor, eager for glory, overruled Kutuzov's cautious approach and pushed for battle. With the Allied forces closing in, Napoleon ordered his corps to converge on a battlefield he had carefully chosen near the town of Austerlitz. On the misty morning of December 2nd, 1805, two armies faced off. The Allies held the Pratzen Heights, while Marshal Devout's French, the Third Corps, was still approaching. Spotting what seemed to be a weak French right flank, the Allies planned to strike from the heights, hoping to crush the right and trap Napoleon's army. Napoleon had anticipated the Allies' move. His strategy was to lure them into stretching their forces too far, then strike at the Pratzen Heights to split them. The battle started in 8 a.m. Austrian advance guard under General Kienmeyer clashed with French defenders in Telnitz. The French, outnumbered, fought fiercely but were forced to retreat. Yet, instead of pushing their advantage, the Allies hesitated. The dense fog and delayed orders slowed their planned attack by an hour. By then, heavy fighting had spread to Sokolnitz village. At this crucial moment, Devout's corps arrived. His troops briefly retook Telnitz, but were repelled. As Devout's reinforcements reached Sokolnitz, the mist lifted, revealing the Allied left descending from the Pratzen Heights exactly as Napoleon had hoped. Sensing the moment, Napoleon ordered Marshal Soult's the Fourth Corps to attack the exposed Pratzen Heights. From the fog, French forces advanced, catching the Allies off guard. General Kutuzov quickly organized a defense. But after 2 hours of brutal fighting, the French overwhelmed the center by 11 a.m., securing the heights and splitting the Allied forces. In the north, a fierce and lengthy cavalry battle ensued, with the French ultimately emerging victorious. Lannes' the Fifth Corps then launched a decisive attack against the Russian advance guard, driving them from the field. In a final attempt, the Russian Imperial Guard attacked the Pratzen Heights. Though they briefly took a French battalion's Eagle standard, Napoleon responded with his guard cavalry, which swiftly repelled the Russian elite in a hard-fought clash. With the Allied center destroyed, Napoleon shifted focus to the Allied left around Sokolnitz. By 2 p.m., he ordered 4 divisions to move south and cut off their escape. General Buxtehude, in command of the Allied left, only realized the trap too late. Surrounded on 3 sides, many of his troops fled across frozen ponds. French artillery targeted the ice, causing around 200 soldiers. Though later exaggerated by French propaganda, the incident became a symbol of Napoleon's victory. The Allies suffered around 36,000 casualties out of 89,000 troops, equating to about 38% of their effective force. The French incurred losses of approximately 9,000 from 66,000, or roughly 13%. Additionally, the Allies lost around 180 guns and 50 standards. The Battle of Austerlitz shattered the Third Coalition. As Russian forces retreated, Austria's Emperor Francis I was compelled to sign a humiliating peace treaty, which included paying 40 million franc indemnity and surrendering key territories. While Napoleon celebrated his victory, news of a devastating naval defeat at Cape Trafalgar soon reached him.